Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Your aunt playing Dragon Quest. That was quick. That's the fastest anyone has ever answered one of those. Good to hear. You were waiting. I was like 2 minutes late. I knew I was like, oh crap, I better get on like right now. All right, I got a tweet. We are just tweeting that we are on the off chance that someone sees my tweet and joins this stream. Although I know that Looney relies on me to tweet on this. I am streaming my TTRPG campaign prep. Come watch. And if you've been watching, you know by now that I just like saying the things that I type. That's just kind of the kind of person I am this week. And tweet. Let's go ahead and charge my phone before I forget. So, Eli, go ahead and tell me, what was that memory? What do you remember about your aunt playing Dragon Quest? All right. So it looks like everything is in order. It looks like we're displaying the proper information. And Zelda, she made her own map on graph paper. That's amazing. I forget if we've talked about this here. Talking overworld map. Yeah. I mean, you had to, unless you got that issue of Nintendo Power. Let's see. Can I do this? No, I want to actually. Maybe I can do this a little differently. Sorry, I'm fiddling with my. I want to be able to show you more at a time. Maybe if I do it like this. You figure that's readable? Is that good, or do I need to make it bigger? Cool. But no, that's amazing. I think we had talked about this before, and stop me if I have. But I've heard people talk about how it's impossible to play the early or the first Zelda without a guide, whether that's game facts or a strategy guide or whatever. And the people who say that say so because they say, oh, well, you would have to do this like a group of people. No one person could sit there and just play this game and get all of the secrets or whatever. And to those people, I say, you're right. People used to play that game communally. You would talk to people on the playground, you would meet friends on the, like, when you run around in the neighborhood. No, and you don't need all the secrets, but what I'm trying to say is, like, there was a way to play that game that brought neighborhoods together, and that, like, was this kind of shared experience. And I don't think people really see it that way anymore. I don't think people really understand that you can do that. And it's even easier now than it ever has been. You just get together on a Discord and talk about, like, oh, I'm playing this game. Hey, did you know that you can get into this specific spot by burning the tree that's like on this grid coordinate? Um, that's a very special way to play it, and I would encourage people to do that. People kind of do. I just don't think that they recognize it. But it's there. It's a way to play that game, and I think people just don't appreciate that. There were little bits and pieces of all kinds of video games that were passed down. Um, how did we all know that there was that one up mushroom in that first Mario stage just before the first pit? Like, that's, you kind of, you either learned that or were told that. But if you learned that, then you would tell people. You'd be like, hey, wait, stand right here, jump up, boom, there's a secret. But anyways, I digress. Um, let's see. Later, when the Super Nintendo came out, I remember playing Mystic Quest the most, and I have always loved that game well past nostalgia. No, I forget if I've talked about Mystic Quest on this stream. I played Mystic Quest on this stream. There's like a 11-hour playthrough that I did last year's April 1st. I guess, gosh, it's been a little over a year. I do love that game. It is ridiculous in a lot of ways. Like, the story is very silly, and I appreciate it. Everything about the way that game is put together mechanically is very silly, and I appreciate it. It was um it was made to cater to people who I think the creators of that game were like, we're gonna make this so that people who don't like role playing games might have an easy on ramp. That's my understanding, and I liked it despite that. But there were some really goofy decisions made. I do really like some of the things that they did. In fact, it was really weird that they kind of borrowed from the Saga series or vice versa, but it had jumping. No other Final Fantasy had jumping up until that point, unless you count Final Fantasy Legend 3, which is actually Saga 3. That's a whole nother conversation. Um, and this kind of like um, forward screen battle, like, as opposed to having the good guys on the right and the bad guys on the left. Another thing that Saga did that I think Mystic Quest pulled off really well. So there's like all these really weird little like Saga touches that got into Mystic Quest that I very much appreciate, including the whole like, hey, I'm this deific force that manipulated you. Isn't that cool? And then, well, I guess that's spoilers. But anyways, okay, Monday game. Nothing's changed. We didn't play today. Just happenstance, people couldn't hang out. And it just kind of reinforces what I've said. We just need to get a big fight with a lieutenant of Orcus. Let's spend a little bit of time on that. What does that mean? A lieutenant of Orcus. Do we want an undead or do we want a demon? And I think we want maybe an undead demon. Now, for this group, they're level 6, if I recall, maybe 7 actually. Can't exactly remember, but they should be ready to punch up. So, an undead demon. Do we want to do a horned demon skeleton? Now, I cannot recall, so I'm going to pull out the monster manual. So I remember horned demons are kind of there's kind of like an intermediary step between the lower level demons and the higher level demons. It's like, I don't want to get out like a Garistro or a Merilith. Maybe a Glabrazu would be fun too. Nope, I'm thinking Horn Devil, so strike that. How about a Nalfeshnay Ghoul? Actually, gassed. So this is going to be really fierce. Did I ever play Final Fantasy 3/6 in 2-player? I had to do that with my cousins because they only wanted to play dumb sports games and I didn't have those. I did on a handful of occasions. I would try to play Final Fantasy 6 2-player. It was a weird novelty. And I don't know how to explain that. Like, just to convey the fact that like you could have two controllers connected to your Super Nintendo. And when you got into a battle, then one person could control anywhere from 1 to 4 of your player characters, and the other person could control anybody that the first player didn't. And that was interesting. I don't know that necessarily. Well, I don't know how that impacted the game terribly because it's kind of like it's very likely that one person spent their entire time building those characters, and there's a lot of intricacy by the time you get to, let's say, the World of Ruin, the second half of the game. Where you know how a particular character works, and to kind of explain that to someone who maybe didn't play the game all the way through, it was tedious and silly. But it was possible. I did have Secret of Mana by then, so if I was going to play a 2-player like RPG-ish type game, it was going to be that. It was going to be Secret of Mana. And that was way more fun to play. And still tricky to for the same reasons. Like you had to explain, no, you don't want to just swing your sword wildly. You have to wait between hits. That's still really hard to convey. But it was much more fun. Only got to rent games. Yeah, I did a lot of renting games. I owned Super Mario World. Then maybe half a year later, I got Legend of Zelda. And then I didn't own anything for a really long time until I got Final Fantasy IV. And then Mystic Quest. And then Secret of Mana. And that was over the course of like 4 or 5 years that I got those games. So then I would just replay them constantly. So I'd go back and play Legend of Zelda and just start to finish. I would play Mystic Quest a bunch. I played that game through a bunch of times. I would play Final Fantasy IV over and over again. Mario, that one was more like I spent a bajillion years getting every single stage perfect. So I just would kind of shuffle through those 4 or 5 games until I got a handful more. And I started getting kind of sort of an allowance so that I could start buying my own games. And I got Chrono Trigger, I got Final Fantasy VI, I got... Gosh, I feel like I'm missing one. There's something else in there. But I would rent games like crazy. So I played Illusion of Gaia, I didn't beat it. I think I had Soul Blazer for one weekend. There was Lagoon. I don't know if you ever played Lagoon. And so on. But yeah, gosh, like those were the heydays of video rental for the Super NES. Boy, I rented so many games, and a lot of them were genuinely awful. Oh boy, were there some bad games. All right, so now Feshne Gast will have Paralysis Claw. Yes, I like this. Neat. Yeah, and that's really all I have to say. Like, if the group can um, defeat the Nalfeshne Gast, they'll gain entrance to the library, and maybe I'll even have it end there. Like, I don't know. Maybe through the library they find the things they need to enact the final battle. I don't know. Lagoon, yeah, that game is so silly. I think I rented that one like 3 or 4 times trying to beat it. I never did. Wanderers from East as well. Like which I think ended up just being Ys 3, Oath and Felgana. I played the crap out of that game too. The East series games were hard. Oh man, I almost beat that game. I got to that last boss a handful of times and then I only. Why? Um, why were they hard? I mean, I don't know how to exactly describe that, but I think those were games. I remember American Sammy was the one that brought that over. But those were games where I think they were trying to be unapologetic about the way they translated those games, and so they didn't dumb them down like sometimes they did. Um, I don't know. Like there were a lot of attempts to be like, here's a game that's very Japanese, and when they would do that, they wouldn't sell especially well. And it took a long time for that to kind of go away. Um, gosh. Hmm. I need to include more allusions to Star Wars. Maybe. Oh. Maybe there are Reckles. I don't know how you spell Rakghouls, but if you've ever played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, you'll know what I mean. Back to the Undead Demon, I'm trying to think of some cool head shapes for a Demi-Lich. That'd be kind of cool. But a Demi-Lich, though, that could kill everyone. Yeah, that could kill everyone. Maybe we dial this back, actually. Maybe instead of a Nalfeshne, we go for a Hezru. I think we can include that here. Oh, I have it. This is perfect. We're not doing any of that anymore. Geeklol Shadow. No, we're doing a Crate Dragon skeleton. Boom. Problem solved. It's Star Wars. It's undead. It's scary. End of story. Great dragon skeleton. I just solved this. That's perfect. Group will find a lightsaber and holocron in the remains. Will belong to... Oh, I don't know. Well, heck, who is somewhere that knew about Tatooine in the prequel at time frame? Actually, Qui-Gon? I don't know. This is, by the way, I'm not just throwing Star Wars in here for no reason. One of my players is playing a Jedi. Like we talked about this a little bit, and he specifically said, "Hey, can you throw in some Star Wars references?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool, I can do that." So that's why we're doing it. Actually, I think I want to change this. Dooku. I'm having some fun little ideas for how I want to integrate that. But anyways, I'll get to those later. There's not a lot to do with this. I don't know if we're playing tomorrow. I honestly think we're maybe going to play the maximum of 2 or 3 more times, and then we're just going to say, hey, no more for the end of the year. We only have 6 weeks left, and I don't anticipate us being... I don't think we're going to play the last 2 weeks probably. So really it's 4 if you include this week. After this week it'll be 3. So there's not a lot left. And I kind of have a feeling that people are kind of anxious and maybe don't want to hang out after school because it's just we're close to being done. So we'll see. Maybe people will surprise me, but I want to try and wrap this up and feel good about not doing it anymore. And it's going to be rough because I really don't know if I'm going to get any kids for the club next year, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. Okay. All right. So Tuesday, Wrath and Glory going fantastically. So I think we have everything kind of lined up. So Space Hulk. Last time. Man, and it really bugs me, but the Skitarii was not there last time, and they were in a video game world as we'll mention. Okay, so we know all of this, and we can, I think, delete it. Oh no, actually not that part. Steel did. Oh, yeah. Okay, so none of that happened. Last time, group finally group messed around with Tau video game. Played a goofy PS1 era version of Warhammer Fantasy. Beat up some orc sprites and found out they were trapped Tau. After saving one Tau, they went to final boss Ogre and killed it. They ignored the hints to try and fight the dragon. After leaving the video game because they beat it, they were talked to by the abominable intelligence, which told them to leave or help. Come on now. There we are. Bones, the Harlequin, decided to try and what's the phrase I'm looking for? He tried to deceive the AI, but Spoon gave the game away. The AI turned into its true form, a 3x3 foot box. Kinda unwieldy. When Spoon said, "Let's destroy it," loud enough for it to hear, the AI started a self-destruct protocol, which it can survive. Alright, so that's what happened last time. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Group members don't enter digital. Okay, so that was fine. Everybody entered. Actual boss will be Chaos Dragon Metallic. Chrome, 3 heads like Ghidra, 3 actions as a result. That could still happen, but let's just write this in. More likely, the group will have to do a series of skill challenges to survive and avoid the ship crash landing on Ostia. Ostia being the agricultural world. Hey, late and gay, but here I am. Hey, Looney. Alright, 2 things that will happen on the ship. Digital Nightmare. One thing that will happen on the ship because the other thing already happened. Group will be helped to avoid this by the uncorrupted android, maybe as a pet of Inkari. Tau is physical, but body is unstable. Okay, Black Rock Fortress, I still need to do that. So the Chaos Dragon is a 3-headed blue-eyed white dragon. Oh, blue eyes, white privilege. I love that card. Keep thinking about how and why there will be tech for group to find, whether it's Necron old ones. Okay, but this is all like for the future. War gear, Tau weapons, maybe power armor. Could be neat. Maybe a trade with Admix, or let's just say Mechanicus. Chain swords, las guns, and Eldari stuff. Yeah, so they'll get stuff. Maybe they have a cache of Inquisition items, so that's still a thing. But I want this to be for much later, and I don't want to introduce it now. Like, I think I'm going to tuck this away, and I'm just going to leave a comment for that. For a later time, maybe? Question mark, question mark? Okay, end of this arc, maybe have Inquisitors following group. Maybe they follow because of Sister Rose. Not sure if they will go with group or if she will. No, I think we already messed with that. So one of the sisters might still die. Maybe to ensure the safety of all, one of the Repentia will die. Could be like that one Doctor Who episode where the dinosaurs died. We're talking a very old Doctor Who for that one. Okay. Inquisitor Veldin, maybe watching group and judging them. No. I kind of feel like no, we're not doing that right now. But Phenodius Thembar, we absolutely are. Charismatic leader of a Hive World gang. Big secret wants to lead a rebellion on Gilead Prime. Has gotten tens of thousands of gang members under his control. Has a heavy bounty on him. Maybe being targeted by one of Lady Hyacinth's former associates. Should be fun. Our variety cluster. Oh yeah, the outlaw asteroid. Have one of the dangerous Inquisition factions come in from the Segmentum Solaris and try and take over. It's the one that is so far gone that it is excommunicated. I have to remember this. I've been listening to so many YouTube videos about Warhammer, and every so often they'll drop a nugget of information where I'm like, oh my god, I can use that. So I need to find out what that Inquisitor faction is called. I used to know. But basically the Inquisition faction in question, they want to replace the Imperium. They don't think the Imperium's doing a good enough job. They want to depose them and say, hey, we're in charge now. Alright, today's quote of the day is really easy because all my TTRPG's memories started happening after I met you, so that's a floaty pass on an open goal. That's pretty good, though. What like, I mean, more to the point, because I asked Eli similarly, like, what do you remember? What do you recall those memories being? Cynthia, designer drug made on the Garvardi cluster that affects perception of time, maybe even awaken psychic powers. Abjectly dangerous. Abjectly, is that a word? That is, right? Define abjectly. No? Dictionary is not going to work on that one? Okay, I'll just do that separately. I hate opening up new tabs on the stream. Yeah, because you could be an abject horror, extremely contemptible or degrading, being of the most miserable kind, thoroughgoing, extremely submissive. We're going to go with thoroughgoing and complete. Used to modify pejorative nouns. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like, it's entirely, but like for bad things. Abjectly dangerous. Okay, I just had to check myself there. Used a lot by the cults. They are trying to export it to spread chaos. Yeah, so it's a drug that makes you... It's basically LSD, but it also just will awaken psychic powers, could potentially make normal people become very sensitive to the warp in bad ways. Alright, Administratum official Tendrin Lissac. Admin who's trying to ensure that Gilead Prime survives is in over his head. Only one currently with a big picture view. May I ask group to visit admin? Okay, so these are all things. Outlaw Asteroid Haven. Okay, alright, this is... These are all very good ideas, but here's what I need. I don't need the Outlaw Asteroid. We already did that. Let's see. I'm going to put this in a place where it makes sense, because if I come back and look this over, I need it now. So for next session, that being 419, group will survive, maybe, the Space Hulk and may go to Ostia. Once there, many things will become apparent. Group may run afoul of people like Inquisitor Velden, trying to stamp out the Cynthia outbreak. Machete trying to hunt down, what did we call that guy again? I know it's Lick of the Whip, but Galvanus Breston. Galvanus. And let's see, Looney says, I mean, the very first session we had was pretty banger, and it was 40k thing, so that's my first hands-on memory, so to speak. That makes me happy. I do remember that. I still have your character sheet for that, by the way. All right. Enoch, Sister Rose, Garvardi, and there is the fellow whose name I cannot remember. Maybe I'm gonna have to open that up. Come on. No, I just saw it. What is the dude's name? Sorry for all the scrolling. Phenodius Thimbar. Phenodius Thimbar may approach the group to convince them to join his cause. May also attempt to assassinate Sister Rose, because she is likely the greatest obstacle to the group joining. Or at least she is in his eyes. To keep him safe narratively. The first contact will be with an Ogren female who is his I guess I should say lieutenant. She has been given implants. What do I want to do with this? Because I know there's something really fun I could do, and I'm like, it's on the tip of my tongue. Implants. Shoot. That give her the personality of a long dead. Let me think. Dark Mechanicus creature person. Tech priest. She is an advisor and is slowly corrupting Phenodius in hopes to create a Dark Forge world on Gilead Prime. So there's all kinds of weird, crappy things that are going to be happening on Gilead Prime. group will not Ostia, but Gilead Prime. A hive world. So Gilead Prime is going to be a really fun place to be, and they're probably going to spend a lot of time there, and they're going to really understand the politics of a hive world, the kind of dreariness. Like, there's a lot of really depressing things in 40k, but a hive world is probably, without just being gross, maybe one of the most depressing places you can be. Like, obviously, there's the Drukari who will torture torture people to death. There's the just chaos that will turn you inside out several times over. There's the Tyranids that will eat you inside out, and so on. But like, this is just a human-born misery that is visited upon billions daily and for a very long time. Let's see. Looney says, you know what? Whenever we're like done with the Klaus thing, or if you feel like taking a break from it, we can retake the 40k campaign and whatnot. Well, Looney, I hope that being on this stream that you've learned quite a bit about 40k and just kind of having a better understanding. But I had a lot of fun with what we were doing. But we've got so many plans. Let me tell you, because between Klaus and 40k and Rifts and Exalted, I feel like I've got material from here to eternity, which, believe you me, we have the time. We will spend all of that time together, and we will go through all of those and more. I have every confidence that we will do this. All right, I feel like we've got a pretty good baseline on this. I did not name the Ogren lady, and I need to. Let's see. To keep him safe, the Ogren female who's his lieutenant named, and she's gonna get an interesting name. Why don't we go for Black Lily? Is it 1L? It's 1L. Black Lily, but we need to throw a tech name in there. No, I have a better idea. Black Ram. And everyone's going to assume that she's like Black Ram, like the animal ram, but she's actually Black Ram, like random access memory. And that's going to be, like, if anybody figures that out, it'll be interesting. Let's just do a quick write-up on Black Ram. A former gladiator who was recruited by Phenodius. He saw potential in, let's just say, the Ogren once known as Tiger Lily. And offered her the implant that is a helmet with tech spikes. Helmet turned her into, or rather, gave her the personality of a tech priest of the Dark Mechanicus. Black Ram has plotted for millennia to take over Gilead system. guess the Gilead system. Black Ram also knows about secret that the scientists are leading the group to. Rediger and Ansel. I like this a lot, this idea. Phenodius is obviously like this ruthless, kind of almost barbarian warlord of the Hive World gangs, but is secretly just being manipulated by Black Ram. So he did this and was like, all right, I have a big bruiser who's going to be my lieutenant, but I need my bruiser to be a little bit more cunning and um, uh, just kind of underhanded. And Ogren are not those things, and so he's like, let's do this thing that somebody told me can you make you smarter, but I don't trust it to put spikes in my head. So we're going to do that to Tiger Lily instead. So Tiger Lily becomes Black Ram, and slowly over time, Phenodius gets convinced by Black Ram very subtly, to start pursuing some agendas that are less about taking over Gilead Prime and more about finding this artifact ship that everybody's kind of heading towards. So this is going to be a massive entanglement and complication that should have many sessions worth of interesting repercussions. So I'm excited about this. This is fantastic. This is exactly what I've been like. I just threw out Phenodius Thimbar for no reason. And now, as we're kind of weaving all of this together, now Phenodius is going to be a huge part of it. And guess what? They might kill Phenodius and be like, oh, we took care of the problem. But guess what? Problem was not Phenodius. The problem was Black Ram. They might kill Black Ram, although I want to see... It doesn't matter if they kill Black Ram, because all of the things Black Ram has been enacting are already in motion. But I want to see... There's a very small chance that they may be like, hey, let's get that helmet off of Black Ram. Ogren don't act like this, and then they can have a powerful, albeit very not smart ally in Tiger Lily. And if they restore Tiger Lily's personality, Tiger Lily's actually a good person. I won't say she's smart, but she is savvy, and she's also very strong. But those are all very interesting things that I really want to play around with. But I feel like we've done. I always spend a lot of time on this section, but I feel like this is good. I don't think I really need to go for a lot more. Okay, Phenodius, Scarvardi cluster. So that's going to be all of this stuff with the meteor, or I'm sorry, the asteroid field, is going to be further developed, but we have time to do that. I like the idea of introducing the Cynthia drug now, so that there's kind of like those things are going to run into it. They're going to run into people who are Cynthia addicts. They're going to know that Cynthia is like a huge problem, and then down the line they will go to the asteroid field, and they're like, oh shit, this is where the Cynthia is made and distributed. So that could have some very powerful implications. Administratum, so Tendrin Lysak will be probably their first contact that's going to say, hey, we need help with this Thenodius fellow. Please help us. And if you help us, we'll overlook all these weird things. Machete, they'll run into Machete because, of course, they're going to want to go after Galvanus. High Fortress Biomedes. So this is where most of the stuff will work. And I'm just going to put a note here for myself. High Fortress has a lot of weaponry and even an Imperial ship that can be of use to Phenodius and is dangerous in his hands. Let's see. Looney says, we're going to be at the nursing home and the staff's going to be like, that couple just won't stop playing them board game things. They've been at it for decades, according to them. Yeah, and the old lady still gets confused with the numbers. No, that's my dream. Like if I retire wherever it may be, like I'm gonna be running. I'm gonna be doing tabletop role playing until I die. Like that's how I want to live my life. I lived 15 whole years without it, and I'll be darned if I don't live a single other year without it now. Let's see. This leads. Okay, we're all set. Things to remember. Group knows that dark elves want to create their own god, so that's going to come in later. Although, boy, I don't want to overload Gilead Prime with all these things, but the crazy lady, I can't remember her name because I gave her this wacky name. She probably could show up and will maybe be like a person that will and I cannot remember her name to save my life. Brefendelia, I think is her name actually. Note, maybe introduce Brefendelia? Question mark. Okay. Anyways, I think that is a sufficient amount of time spent on the 40k segment. As mentioned, I always just go overboard with this, but man, I am getting some majestic ideas. Dawn of Thay. Let's see. Last time, group found and killed the Nothic. That wasn't a big deal. They have unicorn horn for magic item creation. They also found out that the red wizards are attacking the glade, grove, etc. that the group's druid comes from. Should be fun. May take time to undo the pillars. Steel pillars concept from Eberron game. 1 aberrations, 1 demon/devils, and 1 undead, but from plane of negative energy. So all of these are going to be bad news. But this will give me some room to kind of give them quests to undo these pillars. Pillars will be formed from the energy of 3 arch wizards of Thay, all led by, what is her name? That lich woman. Let me see. Amusingly, I have Valindra. Thank you. Bad guys from Pandemonium instead. Tell me more about Pandemonium. I think I should know about this, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank. Valindra. It's funny, but I actually have a miniature of Valindra Shadowmantle before she became a lich. I think that's what it looks like, anyways, and I used it as my character for a campaign for a long time. It's the neutral location where the Slotty come from. Slotty. That might be a little too difficult for them. Slotty are real dangerous. And I've seen some real unprepared characters get into a lot of trouble with excuse me, with slots. And he says, well, hey, if you need company for all them years you plan to continue doing TTRPG, you know who to call. Me, that means me, put me in coach. Well, don't worry, Looney, you're never coming out of the rotation now. Eli says, danger equals fun times, lol. You know what I could do, though, instead? And I like your energy. I like the idea of just not doing demons and devils. What if we did Yugoloths instead? That one is a little tricky because Yugoloths are usually not motivated to just sow chaos like demons are. Um, and I kind of feel like, oh, I have a better idea. What if we did Oberiths? Is that how you spell that? I believe that to be true. I believe that is how you spell that. Yeah, Oberiths. What's that Zerg analog? Kithric? I think so. That would be fun. Um, Kruthic. See, what do I know about Kruthic? I actually, it's amusing, but I used Kruthic in my Eberron campaign some time ago, and they were a lot of fun. Oh gosh, I'm just getting drowned by messages. Let's see, what message did I get? So what I don't know about Kruthics is that, like, I know that there's the little guys, and I know there's the bigger guys, but I don't know if there's much more to them. So they were created by an ancient tiefling empire on the world of Narath. Oh, so they just keep growing. Let's see if we can figure this out. If you've used them recently, we can't have them again. No, it's more like I want to know more about them. Like I kind of dabbled in the whole Kruthic, like I dipped my toe in the Kruthic pond. Um, but I could stand to do that. Let's see. Sunday from 7 to 8:30. That could be fun. Tentative. That's this Sunday. Yep, maybe. Okay, sorry. I've just been getting. Of course, people love sending me messages when I'm on here, but they don't love watching the stream. Bastards. Then they're like lobsters. All right. Where they keep growing. Oh, that could be fun, but I don't know if that's interesting enough. Like, I don't want to be like a pedant here, but I feel like it needs to fit into like this. Yeah, it needs to fit into this kind of like this idea of like, okay, here are these like absurdly evil things. Kruthics are just like, okay, so it's a biological experiment gone wrong. Um, hmm. I like the idea, but it just there's something lacking about it. I want to use Oberiths because I want to freak them out a little bit. And in addition to that, there's the one player, Sentient Sturges. That could be fun. Oberiths could fill that gap. But in fact, I could have the Sentient Sturges be aberrations. Sturges are practically a creature from Lovecraft anyway. Anyhow, so the idea though is like I want to throw Oberiths at them just to like freak them out and show them that they're these things that are like proto demons, proto devils that are just like freaky, creepy beyond belief. And I think they'll appreciate that. Plus, there's one player who likes to read through the monster manual and likes to think that he is kind of an expert at all things D&D, and I appreciate the energy of him wanting to know all of the things, but also he needs to really understand that there's it's hard to kind of separate that meta knowledge if you're not used to doing it, and B, it's good to kind of get this idea that like the world of D&D does not exist in the 3 books that most people get. There are things outside of the monster manual and the books presented so far. Like there's a whole four editions plus worth of monsters that people have no idea about. But anyhow, that's a lot. That's really all we need to really mess with. I'm gonna let them pick one of the pillars, and then we can kind of craft the adventures around that. And then the big thing is that they're gonna spend a bunch of time shutting down each of the pillars. Then when they do that, they're gonna realize that that's time they spent doing that. I should write this down. Valindra uses time spent shutting down pillars. Druids will shut down one pillar without groups. Help? Question mark? And I'm even let's say I'm open to group calling in favor to shut down second pillar. Oh, one pillar must be shut down by them. Valindra uses the time spent shutting down pillars to steal an important artifact and uses it to summon. I don't want to say a Tarask. Hold on. I have another kind of brainstorm. I got the 3rd edition epic level handbook for very cheap, and I'm glad that I did. I don't want to throw 100-handed at them. Physical. Oh, that's tempting. Yeah, I think we'll do that. To summon a Zizikal. Giant ice elemental. She will freeze the region, kill the trees, and her undead minions will have a vast advantage over living, breathing troops. Can even starve out the armies of the area. I like it. That sounds like something Valindra would do. She'd be like, hey, here's this 200-foot tall ice elemental. It's going to freeze everything around it, both through its magic and just for the fact that it's a giant fucking chunk of ice. And she's going to use that advantage, or she's going to try. Oh man, that sounds amazing. So group will have to Shadow of the Colossus up to the top. And have a big battle with Valindra. Valindra will be protected by 3 demi-liches, but has to focus on concentrating on the summoning spell to maintain it. So all the group will have to do is fight through 3 demi-liches. Easy. Eli says, you briefly talking about Oberith somehow got me to think of quintessence. Like the Oberiths are to demons and devils as the quintessence are to Autobots and Decepticons. Shoot. So the only reason I know a lot about the Oberiths, like Oberiths are very deep in the lore, and I don't think they've really been talked about in a long time in Dungeons and Dragons. But contrast that with Pathfinder, and Pathfinder basically they filed off the serial numbers, but they created the Clip-Offs, which are basically Oberiths. The exact same concepts, exact same idea, but Clip-Offs, and they're really neat. Like I think I even may like the Pathfinder version better, but Clip-Offs are really cool. We'll talk about that another time, especially as we get closer to all of this business. Let's see. Thans are using Netheril. Cause problems. Tower of Light. Okay, so I've kind of abandoned this idea, but I think I like it well enough. Let me just say Thayans discovered an ancient ritual that summons giant ice elemental, something the Netherese did a long time ago. Maybe tie into Rime of the Frost Maiden. Okay, neat. For later, Wednesday group, attempt to thwart a Thayan invasion, Grove, a lot of trickery, bravery, bring in Valindra. So we've got that all well in hand. Forward base, Thayan City. Oh yeah, that'll be fun. They still need to do that. First job after dungeon is to go to Druid Grove. Anomaly. Thayan Museum. That's still fun. These are all ideas I can use, and this should be a good fodder. Okay. Wednesday, Klaus the Gnome. Let's see. Last time, Klaus followed information to next disc, was very nice and treated nicely by kobolds. Went to the east. Shoot, I'm trying to. Oh yeah, went to the east and talked to a goblin village. Renfro, the elf bard, was treated badly because he is a knife ear. Goblins were nice to Klaus, and a priest told him to go to a catacomb where skeletons were causing problems. Klaus is now in catacombs fighting undead and just got ambushed by ghosts. So I'm not going to expound on that a lot because I don't want to give spoilers, but this is just what happened last time. And that's going to help me. Followed the information to the next disc. Okay. But I know what to do from here. Because he has a knife here. Alright. Not a lot more going on there. I really need, I'm just gonna highlight this. Like literally. I really need to turn this into something that I can maybe throw onto DM's Guild. I don't know. Alright. So the name of the unicorn is Corthalia. I need to, not right now, but I need to go over these notes and see if they're relevant. And I had a lot of time yesterday. I actually had most of my Sunday to myself, and I really wanted to watch a movie because I really wanted to decompress. Didn't do that, but I'll probably do that tomorrow. Thursday, War Drums. We are getting so dang close. So dang close. So let's see. So we can delete this. Okay, last week group fought the singular remaining rune giant. Looney says, those gosh darn skellies gave me a good frighten, and we got ambushed by friggin' ghosts. It's like a Scooby-Doo episode. You do have a lot of animal friends, so I'm sure they're gonna be like, ruh-roh. Single remaining rune giant got afflicted by Gaius or Gesh and then banished. Short fight. And that was with magical resistance. That was ridiculous, but that worked. It happened. Alright. Group was given the Spark of Shantiko. Zoliad was mad and took shoot, why am I blanking on this? Ronaki to his tower. Group deliberated on what to do and decided to take Spark to Zoliad. I guess I should add that Zoliad said, if you want to see Ronaki again, bring Spark. Also, group met Isla, the genie or married? I think that's the right term. Warlock patron of Durotan. She was effervescent. There we go. Thank you, autocorrect. Group went to the tower and met Pontiff, who had form of Gertrude. Dangerous promises were made, and Pontiff is going to help group fight through the tower because Pontiff wants to kill Doliad. First up, 4 death giants or rune giants. Ruh-roh Renfro. Turns out his name isn't Renfro, it's like Denfro, but it just turns into Renfro whenever one of the animals says it. Ruh-roh Renfro. Okay, 4 rune giants. So that's where we left off. I'm going to have 3 challenges. Let's quantify them. 3 challenges culminating in final fight. Final fight guy, by the way. Not Cody. 3 challenges culminating in final fight. First is for Bone Giants. Second is needs to be something interesting. I could make it where they fight each other, but I don't like that. This needs to be uniquely Palladium Fantasy. Palladium Fantasy. Oh yeah. Zavers. So they're gonna have to fight a room full of 20 Zavers. Last is Renfro. Not Renfro. Zoliad. Zoliad will have. See, I need to make this interesting because they'll just stomp all over him. He's gonna have layer actions for sure. Mantle of Invincibility, so no spells of 5th or lower. And I'm gonna say effects of Tensor's transformation on a clone. That's perfect. Dressed in armor. Perfect. I feel like there needs to be just one more little bit of oomph, though. Let's go ahead and quantify this a little bit better. So he's going to be super dangerous, actually. Boots of Flying. Cloak of Displacement. Let's just say Staff of the Magi. So they'll have. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, this will be the last fight, so it doesn't matter that they get the things. That really literally does not matter. Vorpal swords. Adamantine full plate. And let me see. It's another really good item. Animated shield. Oh man, yeah. I don't want to be so evil, but dual Vorpal swords, adamantine full plate, and animated shield. Yep. I mean, the implications for if they win. is that they'll have like a king's ransom, really an emperor's ransom in magic items, but man. +3. Yep. Man, this is evil. Should I threaten to kill one of them? Because that's what that Vorpal Sword would do. I'm gonna allow them. Will allow group to use inspiration to negate instant death, but will do extra damage instead. Yeah, that'll be fine. That's a lot of good stuff. Yeah, this is... I never got to play Palladium's Rifts. I did make a Valkyrie healer nurse type and a plant vampire of some sort, I think. Yeah. Rifts is really good for that, and Palladium's as well. Man, there were some wacky character concepts. But yeah, this needs to be a very good final battle, and Zoliad having himself and a clone. The clone's going to be like a total badass fighter type because of the Tensor's transformation. And then Zoliad himself will just be like amazing and really hard to hit. Let me see. Gosh, I don't even know if they have a melee type. Well, I guess I don't know. We'll see. This should be interesting anyhow. Okay, Looney says, "Hey Rosie, would you go into those catacombs to serve as bait for the ghost?" No. Oh. Would you do it for a dino snack? And then she barrels into the cave, all caution to the wind. And then there is a chase scene with funky music while funky music plays. I don't know why I have this like weird memory of Scooby Doo where like they had like a monkey song playing at some point, like during one of the chase scenes, but I could be wrong. I don't know that there was really that overlap. Like the overlap existed with those two shows just being contemporaneous, but I just feel like they missed an opportunity to have the monkeys do something on Scooby Doo with Scooby Doo. I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing. Okay. This should be fun. This should be interesting. I think that this is going to be a proper end to the campaign. There are also going to be 3 fights in by this point with not really much of a chance to save. And boy, those Zabers are going to throw them for a loop. I just cannot wait. I'm just going to say if Sabers come too numerous, group may have to be saved by prior allies. Probably a rattling swarm sent by Kirgi or something. Also the Elephant Cthulhu thing. That should be fun. I know they're gonna. This is mean, but I know they're gonna screw it up. I know they're going to. If you don't know what a Zaver is, Zavers are these crazy, weird, like stubby humanoids that have no nose, this oversized mouth with teeth. And the whole point of them is that if they get hit by anything magical, they multiply. If you hit them with a magic sword, they multiply. If you hit them with a magic spell, they multiply. And this group is loaded for bear. So I just have the feeling that they're gonna go for a big area of effect attack, and those 20 Zavers will become 40 Zavers, and things will get bad. A little bit me, a little bit you. I'm gonna have to look that up because maybe that is exactly what I'm thinking of. But that's amazing. Like I think that if they hadn't done that would have hurt my feelings. All right. I think we're done here in the Thursday game. Friday. Nearly all my Scooby-Doo memories are almost completely centered around the 13 Ghost Show and a pup named Scooby-Doo, long past the monkey's expiration date, so I wouldn't know. I don't know why, but I watched an epic... Sorry, there's a lot of noise going on outside. I watched a ton of the old Scooby-Doo, like a lot of it. I think we just had it in syndication here, but it was a lot of fun. The 13 Ghosts was interesting, and it really changed the formula. I really liked a pup named Scooby-Doo. Not a lot of people did. Obviously, Scrappy was terrible. But yeah, I totally get that. It's just like you didn't watch the Scooby Doo that would have had the monkeys in it. I watched the Scooby Doo that was like Harlem Globetrotters, Batman and Robin, that Addams Family for some bizarro reason. But it was a lot of fun. All right, Friday game. I'm still figuring it out. The Wild Between Witchlight. I still need to do that. Coworker game, new game. Will start 4/29. Need to decide between Wolves of the North or Call of the Netherdeep. So we'll figure that out in short order. I still need to converse with a few people, try and kind of get an idea for things, but we'll go from there. Saturday, okay. Oh yeah, I still need to do that. Saturday, group. Explored Neverwinter, met a bunch of interesting people. Professor, librarian, Helga, potion shop, Gertrude, Lil Q. I want to say he was a Lil Q, the gnome. Was he a gnome? I think he was a gnome. Vince and Harper, agent. I gotta remember the professor's name. Librarian Helga, Ocean Shop Gertrude, Lil Q. I feel like I'm forgetting someone. But yeah, that whole endeavor was a big RP scene. Learned a lot. Got to know Neverwinter a little. Lots of hints to go to Ravine. Just call it Rift. Fought a black Abishai that was sent to kill them. Also fighting a cultist safe house. Next session, have the creepy Nothic giant show up in the middle of the night. Maybe dropped off by strikes twice. Okay, I've got a lot of really good ideas for this. Should be neat. Highlight Castle Lanterns as cult leaders in the area. Very influential. Oh, I was a huge fan, Looney says, of the Pup Show. Character reactions when they got shocked were a laugh riot and still among my all-time favorite cartoon gags. I agree. That and Fred being a conspiranoid wacko, always pinning the blame for everything on Red Herring. Also, the music really fucking slapped. I need to go back and watch that. I enjoyed that cartoon a lot. And, oh my god, so Jaro, hello. 15 people, this is a lot. Hello, everybody. I mean, I'm not as exciting as a playthrough of Kirby, but hopefully y'all are going to have fun with the stuff that I've got going. Hello. So Jaro Raid, yes indeed. Hello, everybody. I am in appreciation of you coming and raiding. This is funny because Sajaro, I don't know if you're going to hang around, but amusingly, you can now because I'm not running a game for you anymore. Morningstar420 says, surprise raid party. Thank you, surprise raid party. Hope I'm doing well. Yes, I am doing well. And we're talking about a lot of really neat things. Y'all just missed a big conversation about a pup named Scooby Doo. So that just happened. And we're almost done, actually. I am going to lurk, but I probably need to acquire foods. Yeah, that's totally fine. You are absolutely good to do that. I just think it's great that, like, if you picked up any of the conversation, nothing's going to spoil a game for you because we had a very succinct and complete game that was played. All right, so Sunday game. So for those of you who are very new to this, which I presume is most of you, given how many of you there are, what I do, and I apologize for all of the scrolling, is I go through 8 games that I run a week, and we go methodically through the days of the week. So Monday I run a game, Tuesday I run a game, and I just kind of go over all of the ideas that I am kind of contemplating for the coming week, which is why I do it on Monday. I should do it on Sunday, but no, I'm not going to do it on Sunday. And I spend a significant amount of time just kind of planning and doing a lot with all of this. I wish that this was a little more graphic in terms of like being able to show images and a lot less maybe like wordy, because it's let's face it, it's not great to just have a bunch of words on the screen, but whatever. And we're almost to the end. Actually, we are to the end, more or less. And again, I apologize for the scrolling, but we are at Sunday, and the Sunday game is going to take shape. So new group every other week. So we have picked a setting. We're going for the Mediterranean setting. It's going to be like Sinbad the Sailor meets Kaiju, which Sinbad the Sailor, like those Arabian Night Tales, already had the Rock, and the Rock is a Kaiju, probably. We're going to be using the Fi and Low Pan regions of the Palladium Fantasy setting, and I'm really trying to do a lot with the Palladium Fantasy setting because I've rekindled my love for it, and I want to kind of make it feel like a lived-in setting because I have so many games that have been in there that I can kind of use the events of those games to kind of inform my decisions, inform the setting, inform the world as I describe it. Probably have this be about waking giant monsters. Cults will abound. Monsters will be the dreams of the old ones taking form. So all of this is still relevant, but I'm going to give myself some homework. So when I give myself homework, I will write the thing, read up on Legacy of Fire Adventure Path. And then we highlight it, and then promptly forget about it and don't do anything with it for weeks at a time. But it's there, and my attention will be drawn to it. But suffice to say, we've actually gotten to set up template. Steampunk Mage. Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll get there. We actually are getting to one of my favorite parts of the stream, the what I like to affectionately call the D&D and Q&A. So if anybody has any questions for me, like how do I run 8 games at a time? What's this D&D thing about? Can I tell you about my character? Those are all acceptable questions that you can ask me now. So if anybody has questions, feel free to ask. We've got our 2 mainstays, Eli and Looney, who likely have questions. And if you do, please ask. But if anybody else who is like brand new and wants to ask a question, please ask questions. Gosh, we have so many people here today. This is amazing. This is a Christmas miracle. Why didn't you correct me when I answered the quote of the day as a JRPG instead of TTRPG? So yeah, question of the day. If anybody wants to answer it, I'm asking you a question now, collectively. What is your earliest memory of a TTRPG? Eli, I figured by answering about Dragon Quest that you were kind of doing like a little sneaky thing by saying like, hey, clearly Dragon Quest was influenced by Dungeons and Dragons. Of course it was, by way of wizardry and so on. and Ultima and so on. So that's kind of what I figured. But if you want to answer it more honestly, what was your first TTRPG memory? Something related specifically to a pen and paper tabletop role playing game. If you are so disposed, I won't force you. But again, anyone who wants to answer that question may. Anyone who wants to ask a question may. I'm gonna take this time to fill in the quiet space in this. To Looney says, What is the weirdest, silliest action one of your players has done in a game? Silliest action in a game? Question mark. There's a lot, but the one that immediately comes to mind was we were playing Rifts. I was running the game, and the group was fighting against the coalition states. And the coalition states are like Warhammer Imperium Light. Basically, they have big, scary army with skull motif, but also employ dog soldiers. And when I say dog soldiers, I mean literally they are dogs. They're called dog boys. Group kidnapped one to keep him from revealing group to a big army. So they locked him in a trunk. And when they returned to the HQ of their kind of side, I guess, they debriefed the general. And when they got to the part with the dog boy, everybody looked at each other. Let's see, did I misspell debrief? Debriefed? Maybe that's how you do it. Looked at each other and simultaneously said, "Oh no, the dog boy." That's one of my favorite memories of just everybody looking at each other going, "Oh no, the dog boy." They just forgot him in the trunk. Thankfully, he was still alive, but they just took him as a POW. He was fine. He was not mistreated, at least after the trunk situation. But it was still funny, just a little bit. Eli says, okay, this is the answer to the question. Eli says, had this guy sitting at a table by himself in high school, this green marbled book with a red rose on the cover. Yeah, I know that book. Let's scroll down a little bit. Yeah, and I think we're close enough in age that your time in high school and my time in high school was prime time for Vampire the Masquerade. That was like, man, it was a meteoric rise. People were so crazy for Vampire the Masquerade. And I remember, I want to say it was like a Wizard magazine or an Inquest magazine, and it came bundled with a little tiny booklet. It was like, it was smaller than a composition notebook, but it had rules for how to play Vampire the Masquerade. Very bare bones, but it had them. I wish I could still find that or get my hands on another one. But it was so cool just to have like this tiny. It was like a almost like an address book for anybody who remembers what those were. After Vampire the Masquerade, Eli says it was AD&D and then 3.0 after I got my first duty station. Oh yeah. And yeah, like if I'm not misinterpreting, I believe the army is a really big place to play tabletop role playing, or like any of the armed services really. But yeah, I loved Vampire the Masquerade. What little we played of it, and boy, we were so misguided playing that game. We got it all wrong for a very long time. Marine Corps, but whatevs, yeah. Good gosh and golly. But to kind of co-answer that, so Jaro says a lot of people I know got into tabletop games from their time in armed services. Yeah, A lot of people I do too. Like a lot of people that I've talked to who have played at my table or who I've kind of interacted with online. That is a big source of it, and it's really funny. There's a lot of things that get kind of let's say like what's the term I'm looking for here? It's not a negative connotation. There's like a lot of things that will travel with armed service members. Like uh, people will take their customs, their food with them from place to place, and tabletop RPG is one of them. Sojaro says, my father-in-law started when he was in the Navy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm honestly surprised. I have some older family members who were in the Navy as well, and they didn't really get into it, or maybe they did, and they just decided it was too nerdy. I don't know. As I was starting to say, though, I did very briefly play Second Edition. I cut my teeth. I guess I should answer this. I'm terrible about answering my own question of the day. Um, my very first remembrance is going into a comic book shop. Sojaro says historically games often travel well with military troops. Yeah, that's a very excellent point. I remember being in a comic book shop and seeing the box set for second edition Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted it so badly. But it was like a big demon on the cover, and I couldn't convince my mom to buy it for me, which was a shame. I think it was like $20 at the time, which was a lot in 1992 money, I guess. But I remember talking to my brother about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've played it, like all cool." And I was so jealous, and I'm like, "Oh, I want to play," and it wasn't in the books. My mom said, "Oh, we'll buy it for you another time," and another time never came. So flash forward many years later, my friend Thomas, with whom I still cavort, said he would run a game for me, and like he ran this very like loose second edition D&D game where I was a paladin, and it was just kind of like goofy business after school one day, and like it was enough to hook me. But we didn't really do much more with that. Eventually, we went to the kind of big video game rental place, which was not Blockbuster at that time. It was a local place called Major Players, and they were starting to sell TTRPG stuff. And they had um, all kinds of. They didn't have very much in the way of Dungeons and Dragons, but they did have a ton of Vampire the Masquerade, which I didn't really touch at the time. I still wasn't quite ready for that. And they had lots of Palladium book products. Rifts, Palladium Fantasy, Robotech, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those were all tabletop role playing games, and like we were crazy for them. I believe I purchased Robotech the RPG, and my friend John then purchased, which by the way, I see that Goslin is in the chat. So if you're here, I'm talking about your John. Um, he had purchased the Palladium Fantasy role playing game, which I believe I still own. It's the same copy. Um, but anyways, he had purchased that, and he was like, this is fine, but I really don't want it." And I was like, "Hey, I really like this Robotech RPG," and he's like, "Hey, will you trade me?" Which the Robotech RPG is like a booklet, and the Palladium Fantasy one is like a 400-page stereo manual. But he's like, "Hey, I'll trade you," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll trade you." So he traded me the Palladium Fantasy book, and it was the first like actual like cover to cover role playing game core rule book I ever owned. And boy, did we run some games through there, and it was real goofy. I didn't run the very first game I played in of that. Someone else did. And they did it very poorly, and that inspired me to want to run the game because I'm like, boy, this is sure not the way to play this game, and I'm gonna figure it out because I really want to do this the right way. And that was like the start of my career as a dungeon master. It was like the third game I'd ever played. I decided I was just gonna not let other people run at that time because I was like, this we need to do this properly. And I pretty much have not stopped since. Let's see. Sojaro says, if you look at encampment sites from ancient military sites, they often have gambling tools and toys and such. Yeah, yeah, 1000%. And like obviously, wargaming very likely had its origins from that. And boy, is that an old tried and true pastime. All right, how is everybody? Once again, thank you for the raid. That was amazing. I'm glad that people are here. I hope that I'm not just boring you with my talk of tabletop RPG, but that's kind of what this channel is about right now. Eventually, I will go back to one of the other days doing video gaming, and eventually I will finish Final Fantasy V because it's been like 25 years in the making for me. That was the first time I played it. Have not beaten it. Very closer than I've ever been. Um, but here and now, we're talking about tabletop role playing. And again, I hope I'm not boring y'all, but if anybody has any very pointed questions about it, I am here for you. As mentioned, the Dungeons and Dragons and questions and answers is one of my favorite segments. And when we have more people, it's always really awesome to be able to get a variety of questions. Looney, you asked a very good question. I hope I answered it to your satisfaction. There's all kinds of other silly things that happen. I'm going to go over another one while we wait for another question. One of the wacky things that we did when we were learning how to run this game was the XP chart in Palladium books. The XP chart looked like such. You got 25 XP for killing or defeating minor menace. 100 for defeating medium menace. 300 XP for major menace. And the point of that was to kind of de-incentivize killing things. Because it didn't matter if you killed a dragon or a goblin, the difference in experience was not that great. And you weren't going to be getting your experience necessarily from killing things like you did in older versions of D&D. I mean, in the current one to a degree. But they really wanted to de-incentivize, like, you're not just going to go around killing things, you're going to go around solving problems. So you also had, like, maybe 100 XP for a great idea. 250 for saving a party member from death. These aren't exact. That this is I'm just going from memory. But the idea was like, hey, you can gain levels by doing other things. But my friends at the time were like, oh sweet, all we have to do is like keep killing things. So one of us is going to run a game and throw a powerful but easily defeated creature, because all we got to do is use this really cheesy spell on him, and then we all just destroy him, and we just keep doing that. The idea was that they had like weirdly invented spawn camping in a tabletop RPG, and that idea to me was like the most boring thing in the world. I was learning about these games and understanding that they were like a sandbox of imagination, and all these people wanted to do was like get as powerful as they could, as quickly as they could, so that they can then go stomp all over the world. That's a very middle school, high school thing to do, but I resisted the idea, and I eventually started running actual adventures with, through lines of stories and so on and so forth. But boy, it was rough convincing that group to be like, hey, we don't just have to kill things to level up. Like the MMO had not yet been invented, but they were sure wanting to grind. Obviously, JRPGs existed, but they sure wanted to grind their way through that like real quick. Looney says, okay, so did you ever buy a set of dice that you thought seemed good, but then upon finally getting to use them turned out to be not very good? Did a set of dice go poorly for me? Question mark. I'm gonna say something that I say a lot, and I don't know if I've said it on this stream. And yes, that was a very nice answer to the previous question. Looney says, I'm gonna say something that I say a lot, but gamblers and role players, I guess, just gonna say TT role players, are the most superstitious people. and it's true. You can take a dyed-in-the-wool scientist, someone who is all about rejecting superstition, anyone who, like, atheists, agnostics, it doesn't matter. All of these people, anybody who is like, I do not believe in superstition, the Bigfoot is not real, whatever you think is a miracle is just can be explained by science. Any of these people will have dice superstitions almost immediately out the box. The minute they start playing, the minute they start rolling dice, they will immediately start creating superstitions around their dice. There are things like dice jails. There are concepts of like dice rituals. Like people will vary up the dice that they roll. I try and resist it, but I am just as guilty as anyone else. So I have had some dice rituals. Don't roll the same dice twice, for example. Never had a bad dice set. Like, really, I've never had a dice set that I'm like, this dice set is bad. I will say, though, that expensive dice does not equal good dice. I try to avoid cheap dice when possible. Sorry. Shoot, come on. And so the market has been flooded by dice that cost $3 per set, and they're fine, but they are cheap. I did luck into a set of Arby's dice, by the way, which is amazing. I didn't think I would get my hands on some, but I did. I have lots of metal dice. I've even got the Rick and Morty dice from the adventure that they put out recently. So I have a lot of dice that I am very proud of. But yeah, I can't honestly think of any dice that I'm like, these are not good dice. I do. This isn't exactly part of the question, but I do have like a very big chunk of dice that were my original dice that I got as a fledgling role player. I don't know where they went to. I lost so many of those, and I don't know how that happened, and I'm very sad about that. I do very much wish I have like one or two dice from those days, and I don't know how I lost the rest of them. Very sad. Eli says superstition is explained by statistics. Absolutely, it's been proven that superstition makes your own luck. Of course, this is the best way to defeat randomness with a pattern, but it doesn't work with those silly team sports and your lucky underwear. Yeah. But yeah, like I think the big superstition comes with the fact that like things that you wouldn't statistically expect to happen will happen a lot. Somebody's dice are hot and you start rolling a bunch of 20s, which is completely statistically plausible. But when you see it happen, it just feels so weird. I've seen people roll 3 ones in a row. I've seen people roll digital dice that are run off of some kind of like weird atomic algorithm. I don't know. They claim it to be the most random thing that they can put to digital use, apparently, but it just goes real wacky. And the fact that it runs everybody's dice at once for like 20,000 games, I'm talking about Roll20, also has a lot of factors in it. So like you're not rolling just one dice after another. You're rolling from a pool of thousands of dice rolls in a given second. So obviously the results are going to come out wacky. And the most fascinating thing to me is that if anybody here knows this, if you roll your dice through the visual dice roller on D&D Beyond, it will actually create dice in a virtual realm. This is the best way I have of explaining it. And the dice will then bounce like from a physics engine. And so they're actually rolling in a digital way. I think that's fascinating. I don't know what that does to the actual uh, randomness of it, but there you are. Yeah, and like honestly, I keep thinking about it. I do not have dice that do not work for me. Although I will say one thing, I do have an implicit bias against dice that are not let's say numerically balanced. So if you look, and Looney, you can do this right now if you want to. Look at your 20-sided dice, and this should work for every dice. Take one side and then the complete opposite side, and they should add up to the number of sides on your dice plus one. So for instance, I'm looking at mine. You've got a 15 and a 6 on the opposite side, so that comes out to 21. You've got a 17 and a 4, that comes out to 21. If your dice does not do this, it is not quote unquote balanced. And that's kind of silly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't honestly make a difference, but I am biased against those dice that are not. There's the Magic the Gathering spin down dice, which are just sequential. And then there's others that just are completely random. Like they don't add up on each side. They're just kind of randomly placed. Again, does not matter. Should not affect the outcome of your dice roll. I just do not like them. I don't think I own some of the Magic the Gathering ones just because you get them with every pack release. But I don't think I have a non-balanced dice otherwise. I think they're all like I've systematically removed all of my non balanced dice. But there you go. Looney just checked at random, and yes, 10 and 11. Cool. Yeah. Again, that's just a thing that they started doing, and I feel like it makes the dice better, but really, it really doesn't have any impact. But I like to think that it does. It should work on any dice if they've made them. Like I think all of the official D&D dice do this. A D12 will do the same thing, and so on. What are some of your weirder dice? For example, I've 20-sided D10. I've seen those. Those are very interesting. I do not own one. So one of my students a long time ago decided to get me. Do I still have it somewhere handy? I think I do. So I myself purchased a D100. I remember a friend in high school bought one, and I thought it was the coolest thing. So I got one for myself more recently. Boy, where did I put that dice? I can't remember if it's a D40 or a D60. I think it's a D60 actually, but I do not recall where it landed. Son of a gun. I might have put it in one of my dice bags, but I do have a D60, and it's very. Oh no! Here it is. I have it. It's my D60. It's a very odd shape. This D60. It's very similar to the D100. And I'm just realizing I really need to get myself a webcam because I could be literally showing you all of this, but I'm not because I'm a goof. But look up a D60. It's very odd. Every side is like a weird little rhombus. So far, the numbers line up as mentioned, where they add up to the number plus one. But like a D60 is so weird. Like I don't know where I would ever use one. In all technicality, I could use this to roll a D66 from Warhammer 40k RPG because they employ a D66. However, when they do it, they tell you to roll 2 6-sided dice, take one for the tens place and one for the ones place. So I just rolled a 52. But if I rolled this, gosh, let me think. Because yeah, if you roll a D66 with their method, you can never roll lower than I guess at 11. is the lowest you can get. So that's very interesting. Yeah, I should answer that by typing it out. Weirdest dice. I will say this though too. I've seen a lot of different games employ the backgammon dice. Uh, D100, D66, backgammon. And the backgammon dice is one of my favorites because I don't know if y'all have not D66, D60. A backgammon dice will go 1, 2, 4, 8. No, that's incorrect. I can't remember. But the range is 1 through 64. And so I've seen weapons that do a backgammon dice of damage. So if you roll, especially if you roll a crit, like there's a really good chance you might do dozens of damage. Like it's dumb how much that can do. And I'm looking it up because I cannot remember for the life of me what the sides are on the backgammon dice. Someone can maybe help me out with that. I could swear it was something like this, but I can't. I can't remember. But yeah, like you stand to be able to roll like ridiculous numbers on that thing, or you could roll a 1. But I mean, yeah, you could roll a 1 on virtually anything. Gosh, I don't think I still have my backgammon dice. I should try and get another one. And then I'm trying to think of some of my other dice that I have that are kind of fancy. I have metal dice, obviously, but it's not a fancy dice question. It's a weird dice question. Looks like 64. Yeah. I have wizard dice made to look like wizard stuff. There we are. So I was almost right. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. Called the doubling cube. Wizard dice. So potion is a D4. Fireball is a D6, etc. But if I wish I could show them to you. But look up like wizard dice, and you'll probably see them. They're really odd shapes, but they're kind of neat, and they get the job done. But they're not your standard dice, except the D20 is basically a standard dice. That's all I can think of. I don't have some of the weirder stuff. I know some people have dice that are made from mammoth bone. And, gosh, there was a Twitter thread at one point where someone was like, "When I die, I want my bones made into dice," and that I have feelings about that, and I don't know what they are yet. But I kind of feel like I'm leaning towards no, don't do that. But yeah, there's the answer to that question. Anybody else? I encourage anybody to answer questions or ask questions. Think of the question of the day, if you so choose. Otherwise, we are at 2 hours. I might try and stop soonish, but I would like to give time and attention to a few more questions if y'all are up for it. If we went to 2:15 or 2:30 in terms of time spent, like 2 hours and 30 minutes or whatever, I would not be mad. Eli says, I would like to be cremated, turned into a gem, set into a piece of jewelry, and haunt it creepily. See, I'm a little bit more behind that. I don't want my body turned into a thing that people will touch, and there's no reason for that. That's just silly of me. Like, why would I care? But something about it throws me off. Like, I just can't. I can't be okay with that. Not that I have any. Well, I mean, I should have some say, I suppose, but I don't know what the impact of that will be. You could be haunted, cursed dice. Woo! Oh man, could you imagine the superstition on that? I already ran through my 2 questions of the day, love. Sorry. No, Looney, don't worry about that. That was a ghostly woo. Yeah, woo. Um, but no, if you could imagine the superstition behind dice made from someone's bones, everything about it would be interpreted as that person's wish. Like every natural 20, every natural one on that D20, they're going to be like, oh my God, they wanted that roll to happen. They're in the room with us right now. Let's get a Ouija board out because they wanted that natural 20 to happen. Knucklebones came from somewhere. Yeah, absolutely they did. And I understand that 1,000%. Do I want my Knucklebones turned into a game? Not so much. I'm not going to harsh someone else's mellow, but it's not for me. I have just become insanely aware of my Knucklebones. Looney says, I would like to be taxidermied after death and put in a scary pose like one of those old-timey bears. Oh my God. You're so silly. Now, would it be with or without the clown makeup? We have so many people here, and you all have been so amazing to hang around. I am going to spend a moment because I think we are going to probably stop here in a minute, but I would like to pay forward the kindness of Sojaro. And we're going to raid somebody, I think. Except the way I have things set up, I might not be able to see people. I think I need to get on through my phone just to see who there is to raid. That's right, because I'm not logged in here. Let me look at who is on. All right, y'all. I know that a good chunk of you like Final Fantasy XIV, so we're gonna actually raid. Let's see. Looney says, "God, no, no clown makeup. Life is hard enough for my poor colleagues in terms of like spooky clown stuff without me adding to it posthumously." That's a very fair point, Looney. Very fair point. Let me see. I'm not great at this whole raid thing, so I'm gonna try. Shoot, why is everything going so slowly all of a sudden? Oop. All right, bear with me, y'all. Yep, fantastic. I think I've got it. Thank you, Sojaro. All right, thank you all for coming. This is amazing. I'm so glad that so many people were here. I am happy that people were tolerant of my indulgences. Thank you for indulging me. We're gonna raid Faith Plays, someone I know through a mutual Discord server. Faith is really awesome, and Faith is playing Final Fantasy XIV. So stick around for that. Thank you all, and as always, remember that I plan and play games for you. Sorry if this takes a second. My computer is being really silly.
I might have put half of it in my glamour dresser and left the other half in my marble case. Fine. They're beautiful.
Hello, people. Welcome to the game of Final Fantasy. Game that takes away my sanity.
So good. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait.